G'day and welcome to The Outer Side. I'm Tony, and in this episode I'm joined by Nick Finch. Nick's been in the off-road industry for over 20 years. He's done a lot of wheeling, a lot of off-road racing, both here and overseas, and he's the co-owner of Solve Offroad here in Western Sydney. Nick, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me on, mate. It's good to be here.
Fantastic. So you've been around four-wheel drives and race cars for a long time now. So how did all of that start for you?
Oh, a long time, so whole life, yeah.
Yeah,
I was four-wheel driving when I was, I think, 3 years old, and in the middle of the desert somewhere over in WA, and doing big trips with my family back then.
Yeah.
So it sort of started a long time ago. But I guess how I am where I am, I guess it's sort of, I did an apprenticeship as a mechanic at a four-wheel drive shop because I love four-wheel drives. Got into the competition scene, tough truck, rock crawling, all that kind of stuff. And everything progressed from there, I guess, as you go, as you learn more. So I went from excelling in those areas. We won tough truck and came second 4 times in a row. So we were definitely at the top of that realm. And I was co-driving for someone at that point, like spotting. And then I said to the guy I was doing it with, who's now my brother-in-law, another story. I said, we've got to hit the limit, we're rock crawled. We've hit the limit with the rock crawling to the point where it was, you were driving stuff where the consequences were, well, if I get out of the car okay, I might be able to unbolt a part.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Okay.
So what can we do next? And that's what you keep doing, You keep looking for what's next. And sweet, we had started to go a bit fast with our rock crawlers, and we heard about King of the Hammers, so the racing started, and we sort of built on that and started racing rock crawlers and went to the States, raced in the King of the Hammers a few times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was good fun. That's another world. I think there's definitely a
bit different to tough truck.
yeah, that's an understatement. It's good. It's good fun. It's a good place. I think I loved it more and more over there. The attitude of people over there was really cool in the competition scene. It's massive on more people doing cool stuff is awesome.
Yeah. Is it still amateur racing over there, or is it professional?
It wasn't amateur when I started. I was rocking up as a dude from Australia with a help from my business partner.
Yep.
And you talk about your racing budget for a year, and it was like, what could I scrape together at the time? And the guy at 2 tents up from me's got 2 semis.
Yeah,
there's a guy across the paddock there. He's got his helicopter, and you're like, I'm not playing the same game here, guys.
Are they just wealthy dudes that do it for the passion, or are they like sponsored factory backs?
That's the reality. Racing is wealthy people doing it for the passion.
Yeah.
There's sponsorships involved and all that kind of stuff, but like the only way to make $1 million racing is start with 5.
Yeah. So they're not professional races.
No, there is now. Like there probably wasn't in Ultra4 at that point in time. 2012, 2013, 14, that was sort of my sort of era there. But now there definitely is. Now there's some pro dudes out there that are definitely doing more than just racing Ultra4. They've got their fingers in a few little pots in that racing scene, and they're doing multiple races a year across and I suppose
like anything in America, massive population, lots of big companies, lots of money, right?
Yeah,
so from a sponsorship perspective, it makes sense for companies to advertise with those.
Yeah.
Is there media behind it? Like, does it get broadcast on TV and all that sort of stuff?
Big media, big sponsorship in the sense of like the events get good sponsorship. Like Dave Cole, great guy is sort of he's who you'd call the man behind King of the Hammers, I guess. He really was. He's really done a good thing with it. Like he's brought big names on board: Can-Am, Polaris, Jeep, Ford.
Okay, so not small companies.
Not small companies. Yeah. The big mobs doing that, which is really cool. That just brings the sport more growth and more in the move, and everyone within it more. And that's why they do so well compared to some of the Aussie stuff. We kind of hold ourselves back a little bit. That's getting political, but
nah, that's all right. Yeah. And that's the whole point on this podcast is that. At the moment, I'm not sponsored by anyone, so we can talk about it. We just want to talk about radios.
That's it, yeah. Okay, we'll keep the radios. Keep the radio talk quiet, yeah. Sure.
So, just to talk about the sponsorship then. So, when we're talking about King of the Hammers and you talk about Ultra4 cars, what's an Ultra4 car?
What is it now? What is it then? I guess it's kind of changed like any sport. But the reality is, it's a car. It is a purpose-built vehicle. It can clock 100 mile an hour through deep stuff in a desert, right? And it can, I wouldn't say rock crawl, because the concept of rock crawling has kind of gone out the window there, but it can hit rocks fast.
Okay.
And legit trails fast, like stuff you take your rock crawler to and you scratch around on and have fun. You'll put a well-built Ultra4 car through any of those crawling trails, and you know, and some of it you'll be poking up at speed, and some of it you'll be scratching around still. But an Ultra4 car built to do 100 mile an hour isn't going to crawl like a rock crawler, so there's that balancing act, and that was that sport. I think it grew for two reasons. The timing over in the States, you know, that 08, you know, the GFC. Okay, so a lot of guys could downsize to a game that gave them a rock crawler, a family fun car, a race car. This car does everything. I can go to the beach with it.
What are they? Are they tube cars? Are they built on a road-going vehicle originally, or is there no similarity to a road-going vehicle, just a couple of panels?
Yeah, there's classes obviously that have got that stuff, but no, a proper Ultra4 car is it started out straight tube. And
so what would, I mean, you might not know the answer to this, but what's the benefit to someone like a Ford or a Jeep sponsoring a race like that then, if there's nothing to do with their car?
Ask them.
Yeah, okay.
Look, the guys that are good, they've definitely built those vehicles, and they're smart. They put the similarities of the bodies and the shapes and whatnot into those vehicles, and I think for them the promotion is building. That person builds their brand, not just the brand that's sponsoring them. They build the whole picture. And, you know, Lauren Healy's cool because he's in an Ultra4 car. It's a cool car. It's a Ford. I want to be in a Ford because Lauren Healy loves Fords.
And he might tow it with an F-250 or something.
Yeah, that's it. There's a big picture there, and they know what they're doing. They got that stuff dialed.
I suppose it's not really any different to supercars here, right? Like, yeah, that
probably
might
bigger,
be,
but yeah.
No, I mean in terms of the brand, right? Oh, that's a Ford.
Exactly
it's
right.
not a Ford, right?
Yeah,
like,
100%. Like,
it's a Harrop car, basically.
That's exactly it. It's not what. You know that badge. It says it's a Ford, but underneath that, it isn't your Falcon. You're driving the kids to school.
yeah. But they sold a lot of Falcons and Commodores off the back of that, right?
100%.
And I suppose, like for a marketer, right? Like you're associating your brand with something that's cool, and you're going to put your brand in front of eyeballs. So even if there's not a direct correlation with the cars being raced, there's still benefit for them.
That's it. Yeah.
So an Ultra4 car is, let's say, like a higher speed, super capable, buggy style of car.
Yep.
But then you mentioned rock crawling. So if we go back to that for a second, if we talk about Australia and tough truck, again, there's multiple classes within that, I understand.
There is now, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But when you were racing it, like I actually had a look at some of the old events that you raced in. Actually, you were racing in a team sponsored by my mate Jason at Total Care 4-Wheel Drive.
Didn't I? Yeah, that's it.
So that was 2007, I think.
I think he lost a lot of snatch straps to us because he'd have to bring a new recovery kit every comp. He'd be like, "We need a recovery kit. We don't use them. What are you just giving it to us?" So I probably owe him a couple of snatch straps. I think about it.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be all right with that. I don't think he's doing too much wheeling these days. So, so what sort of car was that you were racing in? What was that? 2007?
05, 06, 07, those sort of years. Same sort of thing. Like that was basically, look, a tough truck vehicle is primarily built off of a production four-wheel drive. Yep. That's kind of the rules. So you've got to have chassis rail and all that kind of stuff.
Loosely built.
Very loosely. I have a lot of arguments with the rules on tough truck and how they should be. I think everybody does, and that's part of the fun of rules, isn't it? Like, where can we stretch this? How can we bend this rule? Like, how can we get there? But that's what it is. It's meant to be a production vehicle. It's meant to resemble the vehicle you're meant to be building it out of, which is that's where the loose comes into it, because a lot of them don't. And the one we had was a Bush Ranger, and that's a bit of a quirky vehicle. My brother-in-law, mate at the time, he had that built by another bloke, Matt Dunk, and it was a weapon of a car. Like it was just phenomenal. Even to this day, it's probably outdated now. It was big and heavy. It had a Rover V8, so it was asthmatic, but Rovers sound cool. Yep. But to this day, that would still be reasonably competitive with a good person behind the wheel. Like I always say, the weakest part of any car is the bit between the steering wheel and the headrest.
The human part, right?
Yeah, that's it. So that car was.
So that was a Bush Ranger. Is that the model of car?
But Bush Ranger is a vehicle. So it was I think a Bush Ranger is it's a Land Rover, and John Davis cut them down and modified them and put different bodies on them and then rebadged them and called them bush rangers.
Yeah,
And they're these
cool.
funky looking Land Rover things. Really cool, a bit more lightweight again, big fiberglass bodies, but open cabs, all
Like
that
a
kind of stuff.
reproduction kind of vehicle.
Yeah.
That's
There'd be a massive story behind that vehicle, that brand, that a lot of people would probably know quite deeply, but probably deeper than I would. But very specific,
I think quirky is the right word. That's pretty cool. So for anyone that doesn't know, and we talked a little bit about Tough Truck when I chatted with Matt Kinsella recently. Tough Truck's quite short, very technical tracks on a property in Milbrodale, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. 2 hours out of Sydney there.
Yeah, and if you haven't been, you should go because it's a pretty sick event, and you can get really close to the cars, and it's pretty wild. So that's highly technical. Whereas a King of the Hammers style event, Ultra4, is a bit more loose.
Kind of throw technical out the window, mate, or pass the window net and just go, And it's gotten more and more. It's a race. Tough Truck's not a race. You've got a clock, but it's a time limit.
Yep.
Ultra4, like King of the Hammers, it's a race. Like it's get to that point quicker than everybody else, and that's
Whereas
the sort
Tough
of
Truck's
job.
a progression within a specified time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Copy.
And each further you get, the more points you get, the better off you are. Happy days. Rock crawling. It's different again. The pure rock crawling, not Tough Truck. That's scored like golf. The least amount of points wins. So
yeah, right.
Three different worlds right there.
That's funny, and you've done all of it.
Yes, done.
What do you like the best? If budget wasn't an issue.
Budget's not an issue, mate. You're in the States racing in a heartbeat.
Yeah, Ultra4.
Yeah, 100%. Probably not even Ultra4. Probably desert, pure desert.
Yeah,
there's
trophy
nothing.
trucks.
Yeah, there's nothing like. It doesn't matter what car you're. You can be in a Can-Am side by side, or an off-the-hook Jeep that just is a quick Jeep, or Ultra4 or a trophy truck. But if you got 8 cylinders, you got 500 plus horsepower.
Already sounds fun.
It already sounds good, and you can just peel out through the desert and just hit some deep warps and really get into some fun stuff. That there's not much. There really isn't much that compares. Like rock trails are cool fun, and I still love that because I think at my heart I'm a rock crawler.
Yeah.
But desert, good comms unit, good music going.
Yeah, it looks pretty fun. I've got a bit of a sort of a secret passion for watching those, just the pre-runners cruising along next to the highways in the
Sitting there
States,
flat.
just full noise, and they're just, through the whoops at God knows how fast. It looks like a lot of fun, eh?
There's nothing like it.
And then I remember that I'm not wealthy enough to own one of those things, and I just go back to my life, eh?
That's it. Enjoy it while you watch it. That's about all you
So
get.
when you raced Hammers, you raced that once or a couple of times?
3 times.
3?
Yeah, well, I drove twice, co-drive once. We finished all 3 times. I think we missed out on an official finish on the third one by 22 seconds or something stupid. But we don't stress too much. I think my ultimate goal there was to finish, because I honestly, we genuinely thought, man, we're so far out of our game here, no chance. But we were smoking some rock trails there. I think our rock crawling background in the early days was a huge bonus, and we scored a couple of top 20s.
Yeah,
so that got us. It was kind of cool because Dave Cole always promoted the international guys coming, so you kind of got a free seat, which wasn't easy back then. You didn't just get a free seat, but you did because you were international, and I had a good connection there. Like I'd been there and done the right things, and kind of went out there before I raced and met people and learned the logistics and
a bit of networking.
But then to get a couple of top 20 spots so that you could then the next year you can race, no questions asked. That was pretty cool.
That's pretty sick, eh?
Yeah, that was cool.
So,
I was pretty stoked with that, and I didn't expect it, so that was awesome.
So were you taking cars over there, or were you using local cars?
We used local cars. I was initially going to build a car here and take it over there, and that seemed like an awful lot of work. And it would have been.
Yeah.
But then I just went another pathway. I went, well, these guys are building them. They know what they're doing. Had a good connection with a guy over there, Randy. Randy Rod from Jimmy's 4x4.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, he hooked me up massively. He said, I'd love to get an Aussie in one of my cars. This is sick. He knew Cal from Cal Off-Road. And I knew, I've known Cal for probably close to 20 years as well, something like that. And he was like, get over here, man. I'll look after you. It'll be cool. And I rocked up. I was over there for a week. Headed straight into Colorado, where Randy's shop is, and was expecting to get my car and spend a week with it on it there with Randy, learning a few bits and pieces, and it was a tube frame.
It wasn't built yet.
And we're 7 weeks out, six weeks out from the first King of the Hammers, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm building this car.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it can't be too easy, right?
no, that's it. So, look, they have their systems. They knew what they were doing. We knew we were going to be on a time crunch. It wasn't that bad, but we hooked in and got it built. And within 2.5 weeks out, I left Colorado with a running car, got it into the desert, spent some time with it, and got to racing. So, and we finished that first race. It was. I think part of it was because I was there and I did the car and I knew what I was doing and I had an eye for detail, so I put the car together. I bolted the car together. I put the car together. I ran all the wiring and did a lot of that stuff. Obviously with the guys' help, because they knew what they were building and fabricating and whatnot, but the assembly was all me because I was able to do it, which is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Because I knew what I was doing.
So in that race, like, have you got a pit crew, or are you repairing the car yourself if you break it? Or
you got multiple pit crews. It's a big race, so you're looking at probably 3, like a main pit and probably 2 remote pits, and you got to get your logistics sorted, because you got to have. This is where budgets come in. Like, okay, if you've got enough parts to have one at each pit, good, aren't you? But your pit crew's got to move your bits around. You know, like if you take a tyre out, you want to have another at that pit. Are you going to pull into that pit, not pull into that pit? Yep. The communications out there is hard, because you're talking like, you know, big mountains in between, not little hills like we see.
Yeah, like proper mountains.
We're talking to blue mountains in between shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was pretty sort of a learning curve, and I teamed up with the Dust Junkies, and they were able to pit for me, and they were a pit crew, and they would pit for like a bunch of cars, and anyone like, and they were good people. So you were teed in with good people that knew their stuff. You could get a lot of information out of them, and if you didn't kind of get it, they'd steer you the right direction. And mate, they got us through a couple of races for sure. They were
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what's the format of the race? So you mentioned like multiple pits. Is it like a multi-day event? Is it stages? What's the sort of
whole thing is like, now King of the Hammers is like a 1.5 week long event itself, and there's multiple races on. But the main event is, you know, the 44 class, 4400 class, the big race, and you've either got a ticket into that race or you're qualifying. And there's 2 days of qualifying to get in, right? And you can be in excess of 200 and something guys wanting to race, and there's 120, 140, whatever he's decided that year in spots. That varies. That's Dave Cole. One year he just said, "Oh, I can't say no to anyone," and everyone raced.
If it's your race, you can make the rules, you want. Mate. Yeah.
And so you qualify, and the qualifying course, man, like you're talking about, big hits, big jumps, big rolls, big everything. Like you're not talking small stuff. Just run around it quickly, see how quick you can do it. You're talking big, legit stuff that a normal average rock crawler guy would double question before they dropped off, and you're racing off the edge of them.
Yeah,
so your qualifying is cool.
Wild videos of cars flipping and rolling, and then just like landing on the wheels and just hitting it in.
You pull the helmet on, red mist, off you go. Right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And I qualified well a couple of times, qualified shit a couple of times, and whatnot is what it is.
Racing.
That's racing, So
that's very cool, man. What an experience though for you, like compared to going from like tough truck at Milberdale. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking that event down, but then to go to an event of that scale, it must have been just like,
oh, it was overwhelming.
Yeah, pretty surreal, right?
Yeah. Especially because by the time I got to it, it was so built up by then. It started back in 08, 09 or something. And I'm like racing it in 12, 13, 14, I think it was. And yeah, man, it was overwhelming. I remember sitting at the start line, and I think in the first race, and I'd qualified, I want to say I qualified 18th, 19th, 20th, something in that realm. So I'm right up the front of this pack, and I'm like, there is no way I am this fast. There's not a chance. I'm surrounded.
Everyone's looking after the cars at that point.
That's it. I don't know. If people know the names, I'm surrounded by Jason Shearers and Eric Millers and stuff like this. These are fast guys, and I was like, no match for that. But we just went and did our thing.
Isn't Shearer the dude that won it back to back?
He's the first guy to win it back to back, which is, man, like, to see what you're putting a car through, and in the times they're now doing that in, there's no comparison in the world. It's like, to me, it's like, it's harder than, like, I haven't gone to Dakar and done it, so it's unfair to say it. But when you kind of see the hard parts and you talk to some of the people, I've spoken to a few people who've done Dakar, but when you get the comparison, it's like a Dakar, but hey, quickly do it today.
Yeah, right.
Because the beating and the pounding, you're talking about rock trails that you've got to crawl that make a 40-inch tyre look small, and you are hell for leather, man. Like, you've got to pick that line absolutely perfect. You've got to hit it bang on, because if you get it wrong, you might not do a tyre. You're going to do the tyre, the wheel, half the steering, rip the caliper off.
Yeah, copy.
You know what I mean? There's the room for error is like so shrunk down.
So there's obviously a ridiculous amount of engineering in these cars.
Yeah.
The highest quality parts. I'm sure there's heaps of breakages. There's a lot of learning, but there must be a physical element to that as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, that must be hard on your body.
You are beat, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons. Would I go back and race? I say I wouldn't. That's probably just what I tell the wife, even though she knows better.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, sure, mate.
I think the biggest thing for me, like, yeah, there's the budget, there's the car, there's the whole story of that, there's time. I think one of the biggest ones would still be the physical input, because it just beats you, man. And I was the better part of 10 years younger when I was doing it, and it was just absolutely punishing on your body. And I could only imagine. I was moving, but I wouldn't consider myself fast compared to some of the other guys out there. And man, they must be beat. By
That's
the
if you
time they get to
don't
it.
bin it and roll the car.
Yeah. If you don't bin it, look, every year there's a decent accident or two. That's for sure. And you hate to hear about it, but hey, that's racing. And
comes with the territory.
The cool thing out there is it's no one's fault. Everyone just gets on with the business and gets it sorted. And
So, I haven't been up close with any of these cars, but I'm imagining it's like a race seat strapped into a tube frame. So there's not much in the way of like cushioning if you roll the car, right? Like,
it's a hard hit.
Yeah.
And especially I guess between the variation between cars like solid axle to IFS, and that's kind of been the big transition in that world.
Well, they're all running IFS at the top end of the field now, right?
Well, yeah, I would say like your top 95% guys. Like,
right.
your guys that are running out of the top 20, 95% of them easy are on IFS now. But it took years to get IFS to be reliable enough to win. Solid axles were still kind of owning that game for a long time, because the pounding you can put through a built solid axle, dude, is like, I don't think anyone can comprehend it. Like, I throw my cars through certain things, and people sit in the car with me and they just kind of go, what the hell? And I go, I know it'll cop it.
Yeah.
But I know I know the limit.
Yeah,
And then most people don't even know that limit, let alone the limit we can take things to. And like, when people go, how do you do that to a tyre? It's like, well, I know what I've done to a tyre, and that wasn't anything.
it can cop it. And it's probably worth pointing out for the more road-going IFS vehicles, there are still significant limitations. So when we're talking
Quite substantial.
Yeah.
Your Hilux is not an Ultra4 because it has IFS.
Yeah, slightly different. It's probably just worth pointing that out. So these cars are running like, I'm guessing, crazy suspension setups, right? Like triple bypasses, coilovers, the whole
shebang.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're all running like big, anti-rock sway bar kind of setups.
Yeah, there'll be multiple options and setups out there for that.
Proper linkages.
Highly tuned vehicles. And you're talking like, and this is where suspension tuning comes in. This is where I learnt what I do here now, I guess, working with the guys over there, tuning those vehicles and my own vehicle and stuff. You're talking about a car you're looking at, to get a car dialed in, or get a car to that 90% mark dialed in, which is what you're looking for, is weeks.
Yeah,
not 100 to 200 hours of tuning time on that vehicle. Then you go to that race, and that's different. So then you go, got to tweak it again.
Yeah, right.
And that's the level they're at, you know what I mean?
So there'd be a lot of data, I guess. Like, they'd be recording a lot of data, heaps of testing.
Well, they're doing more and more of that now. All the live valve shocks are starting to read a lot of stuff. So it's getting pretty out of hand. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so the budgets are getting bigger. And,
you got 2 helicopters instead of one. You're footballer now.
Oh, man, it's quite amazing. And then I suppose the question is, like, how much of that technology development and the R&D that goes into those cars trickles back into suspension for road-going vehicles? Is there much correlation, or is it a race shock is a race shock and that's it?
No, I think a lot of it comes back, because I think that's where everything, the road stuff gets better because of what you're learning over there. That's the fact of it. It's like the stuff you see in an F1 car. Okay, you don't get it what an F1 car has in your road car, but there's things they're doing over here that they're learning, and the technologies, they might use 10% of that technology in this and whatnot, and these little aspects that they learn, and that filters into cars, but it just takes time to get there.
Yeah, of course.
And it's the same in this game. Like, you started to see, we're starting to see now, cars on the road, right, Ranger Raptors and stuff with live valve, and that's all come from the side-by-side world, some of the racing world, and really trying to get suspension better and better and better and better, and that's how it's progressing. So you've got a car now that's on the road that you can go buy at a Ford dealer that knows when you're steering left, steering right, putting your foot on the brake, how much throttle. It knows exactly what you're doing and is reacting to it, not reacting to the bump you've hit in the road or how the road feels. It couldn't give a damn about that. It's reacting to what you're physically doing and how you're driving your vehicle. It's taking that input and making the shocks work so fast you don't know what's happening.
It's pretty wild for a passenger car. So those Raptors have got like the Baja mode in them, right?
Yeah, Baja. Or if you go to the Ford dealer, the Baja mode. But yeah. It's cool. You push the button and you can feel the difference. It makes a massive change. And I don't think anyone... Look, I think there'd be very few people over here that would... And understandably so, this is not a shot, this is a fact, that there'd be no one over here that uses that vehicle to its capability, because you don't want to treat the beautiful car that way, but it can actually do it. It can cop to some of the beating.
I think there was one of them running Fink last year.
Brad Lovell, man, he comes over here and he's a rock crawler. He's an Ultra4 guy from years ago. Man, those guys know their shit. They know the levels. They're top of their game, and they come over here for Ford and. They run Fink with it. They've done it 2 years in a row now.
Well, that's where the Ford correlation starts to make a bit more sense.
It's all adding up, isn't it?
And then you go, well, why are they involved in Ultra4? Well, maybe they're paying attention to suspension setups, and maybe that was part of a plan. Maybe not, but it starts to make sense. And I mean, I just think it's cool that you can get that kind of tech in a passenger vehicle, right? Like you can just go to the local Ford dealer and buy that thing.
Just want it from a 79.
80 series, man.
Why not?
So, that's probably a good segue. So you did a lot of racing, and at the time what were you doing for a living? You were still a mechanic?
No, back then, I was in construction back then. So I was a project supervisor for a large company that was working for Sydney Water at the time. We had some big contracts, and that was good work, and we had a successful crew. And I think good management, really successful crew, that gave me the time to go and do it. We were earning good money, and all that sort of works out, but... the time was the big killer. I was over there 7 weeks at a hit.
Yeah, that's,
you know what I mean?
An understanding boss.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, sorry, wife. The hard part wasn't work at that point. The soft part at that time was my wife, who was my girlfriend then, obviously, was, hey, babe, I'm going to the States. Happy birthday. I'm out. Because it was always on her birthday, mate. King of the Hours every year. It's on her birthday. So she misses out on her birthday because KOH kind of took that sort of...
Mate, I can relate to that. My wife's birthday is in November, and in the industry that I'm in, there's like 10 events that are all in November. So every year it's like, no matter what I do, I'm probably going to miss your birthday. So sorry again.
Sorry. I'll get you a bigger present.
So you were qualified as a mechanic, but then you moved out of that into construction?
Yeah, got out of that. I got out of the mechanics game, never left the industry.
Yeah, I understand.
Like I was building cars, I was working on rock crawlers, that car that Mal, we were running at Tough Truck. I kept just refining and working on that and making it better and better, and then building my own cars and my own rock crawlers, and it just never stopped, you know what I mean? And it was always trying to find the next level back then, like what's the biggest step? We were dropping off, 5-6 metre vertical ledges to see what we could balance on and stuff, just this insane stuff, like I said, consequences, you know?
Yeah.
So I got out of the mechanic game, did that, stayed in the field, but just was doing different type of work, and then it's come full circle kind of thing, I guess. I'm back, but I've taken. I think I kind of got to a point where I felt like I had learnt enough in that realm, in the suspension game, from all the racing and the 10 or 12 years of that level of sport, that I sort of thought I should have enough to go do this for myself now. I should, you know what I mean? I'm a bit funny like that. I think it's like a respect thing. If I'm telling someone and giving someone advice, I should be doing it because I've done it. I should be doing it because I know it, and I should be doing it because it's the right thing to tell them. And I think I had never felt that way until a certain point where I was like, oh, I'm fixing people's wrong cars, fixing people's bad setups, and I'm doing this. Or that's where the name Solve came from, because a couple of boys were like, take it down to Nick, he'll always solve it.
Yeah, solve the problem, right?
Yeah, I kind of want to get rid of that.
And you know what, man, like it's good to be humble, right? And like you see so many people that think they can do something but maybe don't have the experience or don't have the skills, and they go, yeah, I can do it, and then disappointed customers, burning money, and it's just not good for the industry, right?
It's hard. It's hard, man. You're never going to win every customer. And I know the level I know. And you can still get it wrong for guys.
Yeah,
I think the key for me was always like, okay, I think I got enough backing. I think I know enough that if I don't get it right day one, that customer can be back in my door and I will make it right no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that was a learning sort of thing no matter what. Like I've got to make things right for my customers to the best of my ability.
And I think this is something that we often forget. And when I say we, me, like you take a factory vehicle that's had millions of dollars of R&D poured into it thousands of engineers, and then we start screwing with it.
Oh, we messed that up.
And then we go, I wonder why it doesn't drive that well. And it's you know, when you're modifying cars and doing stuff in your shed and cutting bits off it and removing parts and stuff, like there's a bit more to it than just slapping them together. So I read a little something on the internet about how you and Ben actually started Solve. So do you want to talk about that? There was something about a race car and a container with some shocks in it. Yeah,
that was we were bringing a race car back. Well, Ben was bringing his race car back.
From the States?
From the States, after King of the Hammers and whatnot. He wanted it home. And it was like, well, should we do this? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? You know, what do we need to do it? We've been solving people's problems. Fox had come to us. Fox came to us and said, hey, we release a product in Australia and it kind of goes but then flops. What's the story? And so we started fixing that, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. All right, no worries. And then before I knew it, there's a race car coming back, and there's a container with a race car, but 3 pallets of Fox in the back of it. And then we're trying to sort of unload that onto a little 2-wheel drive ute and get it home and all that sort of stuff. So, that was a good day.
So was that where the business kind of became a bit commercialised, or was that just like a little side project?
It started off, I think it started off as a side, let's be honest. It started off as let's bring some shocks in. Like, we know we can make them good. We know some people will buy them. Cool, let's do that. Bit of a side hustle in a sense. And, like I said, I knew I was capable of getting that right for people. And it didn't explode, but it just kept going.
Yeah, a bit of a snowball.
Like, oh God, okay, we need to order more, and okay, we need to do this, and we need to combine that with this guy wants a bar with his suspension kit, or this guy's, and before you know it, you've got 12 blokes and 5 hoists, 6
I think there's probably a few steps that you might have missed there between
a
container of shocks and then the facility that we're sitting in here, which is pretty impressive.
It does an element of before you know it, and you go to look back and go, oh.
Yeah, how did that happen? Yeah, so you left construction and then started Solve with Ben?
No, started Solve with Ben. And we were humming away on it, and it was a sideline. I still had my job, he still had his. He was a checkout chick at Woolies. Yeah. And we just got to a point, like I said, like it's snowballed, and I ended up bringing Ben one day and go, I've quit. I've got 3 months of like long service, and we better make this work.
Yeah, and then I run out of money, and then I got a problem, right?
That's it. And I think he just probably went, oh man, damn it. Yeah, and we just had to run with it, because we just had, by that point I'd had a guy on, and he was working, and I was trying to keep him busy and support him, and it just got too much to have 2 jobs, I can tell you now. So then I was like, I had to bite the bullet and do one or the other. So I bit the bullet. And
so was that, there's the old shop down the road, which I went to a few years ago. Was that your first facility?
No,
there was something before that?
There was something before that.
Yeah,
so I bought a house years ago, decided that I couldn't fit a shed out the backyard. So instead of trying to fit a shed or work out of the garage, I went and rented the house out, rented a factory unit. It was $25 a week a head. Had no lawn to mow. Bonus.
Beautiful.
Yep. And all I had to do was press the button, drive my whole car, trailer, race it up into the whole factory unit, and it was mine. And that's where it started. So what was my home, which was a factory unit effectively, turned into a business.
Sick.
And that's, I think, probably where it sort of stemmed from.
Sort of born out of necessity that then set the wheels in motion.
Yeah,
right?
That's it. Yeah, 100%.
So from there, so you were importing Fox shocks, but were you just selling them then, or were you tuning those shocks?
No, we were still tuning them at that point, because what we'd worked out, it was like, how do we do this? And the problem stemmed from one particular vehicle, the Ford Ranger, the PX2, PX1, PX2, PX Range. They weren't right. So you'd put a set of Foxes on it, and the guys would be like, they're awesome, and then they wouldn't be tomorrow. And you're like, what's going on here? And we were just honing in on what was wrong with the car. The reality is, like, the Americans do not put on a Ford Ranger. One, they don't have a Ford Ranger in the States. It was they didn't have that. It was a T6 in the Americas, and they didn't have it in the US. So they didn't have the development ability. Yep. So we sort of took it and went, well, what are we doing to it? Oh, we're putting all this weight on it. We make these Ford Rangers weigh 4 tonne. We've got to fix that. Like, nothing's set up for that. Fox is definitely not set up for that. Fox is built to be, high performance shock, firm and sort of balanced on the road and handle well around a corner and perform. And these aren't doing it.
Not what we do in Australia with loading them up.
Either
heaps of touring gear or
100%.
Heaps of tradie gear.
So, you're talking about rear springs that are twice as heavy as the shock's meant to manage, and a front spring that's got no weight, like not managing any of the weight it's meant to do, which means when you change that spring, all the valving internally is now wrong to suit that spring, and you're not getting the right performance. So it's a bit of a mix. So we looked at it from that perspective and went, well, I can fix that. So we got the Ford Ranger, brought a bunch in, worked out what they needed, changed them, made them that. And that's where it snowballed from that point there. Because, a few good blokes, Stevie Karras, who actually used to work for me for a bit, was a Ford Ranger guy, Mazda BT50 guy, big on the pages, something I don't understand. You probably understand what that means.
Yep.
He was the king of the Instabook of facegrams for Ford Ranger. And he got onto me and was like, hey, my BT's crap, can you fix it? It's got, awesome shocks, but don't work. So I did that. He just drove home, rang me and went, dude, what did you do? This is unreal.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, a couple of tweaks, we were good. Like, it didn't need much. And he was stoked. So he sort of, I think the Ford Ranger thing took off because he loved that and how well that worked. And Aaron, he was another big one for us. He really sort of, he came in, Aaron Asventures.
Yeah, so Asventures, first episode on the podcast. If you haven't checked that one out.
I watched that, it was good.
Yeah, you can listen to us talk about GQ patrols and high mount winches and all that fun stuff.
So he came in and said a similar thing, like, it's all right, but it's not quite there. What do you do? I said, just give it to me. Yep, come back, pick it up tomorrow. Yep, no worries. He picked it up and was like, hasn't touched it since.
Yeah,
He's brought it in for a service.
And at the time, that car had a lot more weight in it than it's got now, right?
Yeah, it was.
He was running a mega canopy and all of the stuff bolted to it.
That's it. It was a lot going on, and he's dialed it back and trimmed things, and he's just improved like you do.
Yeah, and that's a cool car still.
That is still a cool car,
and it's still for sale to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, so.
But he's
got good suspension
he's
in it.
Upgrading from a Ford Ranger to a GQ Patrol, mate.
So sorry.
Kill the guest.
Yeah.
So Solve now to what it was then is a very different thing, right? You're even this workshop compared to the one that I first met you in down the road, it's a lot bigger. A lot more hoists, a lot more cars, and a lot of stock. So you're not just doing suspension now. You're what I would call like a full service, full drive workshop, right?
Yeah. People say, "What are you doing?" And I think it's easier just to go everything, pretty much everything. Yep. Look, the only thing we really don't touch on a lot on is motor work. We kind of there's only so much I can get in, and there's not that much room. And so we've kind of focused on what we know. We do lots of suspension work. We bring in Fox. We make that work. We get that out to our distributors as much as possible. Then for our customers that are coming in the door here, we just cater to what they need. We build lots of 79s. I love my portals. I'm a crawler at heart, so diff clearance to me is like the bee's knees of everything. So it took me 2.5 years to convince the guys at Marks to let me fit portals. They were like, I don't think you're going to sell any. They didn't really know the shop. They didn't know who I was, and Lee rocked up one day just randomly, random surprise visit. The old
mystery
random
shopper.
surprise visit. And he walks in and there's an Ultra4 race car in the showroom at the time and a few things like that. And he said, I got to talking to him and I think I got over technical, as I tend to do.
Like, what are you talking about?
Well, he knows more than more than I thought. So, and then that was a great relationship with them, and we've loved that. That got us into the 79 world, which we never had been in before that. We had been, Ford Ranger, Hilux, D-Max Ute market. And then I finally managed to crack into that 79 market, and I did it the way I wanted. I didn't do it by just, hey, who's got something that's cool that people want because Instagram said it's cool.
Doing the same as everyone else.
I was like, what is the best thing I can do to a car for that car? Oh, that's that. I'm going to get that, and I'm going to fit that because you want that car to be the best it can be. That's what you need. That's all there was to it. And then we learned more about that car, and what we do for that now is huge. You know what I mean? And it's really cool, and I enjoy that.
It's a big market, right?
So. It's a big market, and they're all guys that they're building their passion. I think that's probably why it rubs off a little bit in a sense, how I feel about it. They come in and they talk to me about it, and they talk to the guys, and everyone loves them, you know what I mean? The 79s, love it or hate the 79, it's a cool car.
I take the piss out of them probably more than anyone on the planet, but I still love them.
Oh, that's
like,
I take the piss too.
Me all the time going, well, why do you hate 79 so much? You know, obviously the plate on the GQ is not a 79. It's a piss take. Like,
yeah, exactly.
There's plenty of cool 79 series cruisers.
Not a GQ.
Not a GQ
one for you, but anyway.
No,
but
people know that.
That's it. I think that's where it comes from. I think everyone loves that car. Like lots of people do, and then. Everything else we do is just a branch off of what people have needed for their or what they've asked for. Our customers have decided what we sell. We don't, in some extent, like they've come in and said, "Hey, I want this," and I'll look at it and work out whether I go yay or nay. But the reality is, the customers have come to me at some point and gone, "I want this," and I can say yes. That's cool.
Or you can help guide them into a better solution, yeah?
No, we don't. We do this, and here's the 15 reasons why.
Yep.
You know, and there's products out there I won't fit, or there's products out there I'll make sure I'm very clear with people as to why I will say this, but if you pick that, don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I still want to build what the guy wants.
Yeah, but you've also got to warrant the work, and if you've got a product that you know is inferior or is going to give the customer a bad time, then you're setting yourself up for failure to fit it, right? Yeah, it's that simple.
That's 100%, and you're not going to win anything, and you're going to end up with a customer that gets what he wanted, but isn't happy with what he got.
And then go, why didn't you tell me this is going to be shit?
Isn't happy with what he got. That's no good either, you know what I mean? So, and you know, there's times where you get that wrong, and you learn from that.
Of course.
And you might get it wrong. That doesn't mean the customer's not happy with what he got. There's jobs out there that I know could be better. The customer's stoked.
Yep.
But that could be better. And what I take from that is like, sweet, well, next time I can do that job and the guy's asking for that, I'll know how to steer him better, or the advice is X, Y, Z, because that one works. It does this. But if you do this, you'll also get X, Y, Z as well. Yep. You know what I mean? Like,
learning from experience.
That's all it is. Yeah, that's it.
So you do obviously a lot of suspension work. You do GVM upgrades.
Yeah, all the GVM stuff.
So you're doing like second stage manufacturing stuff out of here.
Yep.
Full builds for people. Like I've seen some pretty wild stuff getting built in this workshop when I pop in from time to time.
Yeah.
I noticed you've got a Ineos Grenadier behind us, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
so what's going on with that thing?
That thing, that is what... Mate, suspension kit, what can we do?
Yeah,
that's what that's here for. So I've got it pretty well sorted. We're about probably tomorrow I'll have some Fox 2.0 remote reses.
Yeah, right.
I don't think the lift's going to be huge. That car doesn't tend itself to that. It's going to be about a 40, 50 mil lift. And then, some little bits and pieces to sort of make all that work. But that's going to be a wicked car.
Yeah, I reckon they're cool, man.
It's not a rock crawler. It's not a go out and wheel hard stuff with it like you do with your 80 or I do with the 79. It's not that. But if you want something to really, a solid tourer to drive around the country in, like I haven't done it myself with it yet, but I've driven it around a lot. And man, that motor and transmission package is like, give me that. Like I'd have that any day. And the rest of the car, while it doesn't tend itself to that big stuff, like I said, not big lifts and stuff, but there's not a single thing on there that I go is bad quality. And it is built well.
You wouldn't buy a car like that to rock crawl it, right?
No, I don't think so.
I look at that and go, that's a car to drive across the Simpson Desert.
Give me a set of portals, I'll rock crawl the hell out of it. But
that might take Mark's a little bit more convincing.
Yeah, trust me, I'm trying. But they will be a good car for exactly that, and they'll be comfortable, and they'll be nice, and they'll work. And I can't see. On the visual side of things, I can't see a reliability issue in the strength of anything or
the drive-line's BMW, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not an M57,
8-speed ZF, the straight 6, 4-litre.
So it's like an M57 or something? Yeah. It's a BMW
BMW,
right?
Yeah, BMW, yeah, the X5.
And if you haven't seen inside one of these things, they're pretty gangster.
Oh, that's as cool as it gets.
It looks like an aeroplane inside. I got in one a couple of years ago at one of the ag shows, and I was like, this thing's sick, eh? Like, they're just cool.
They are just cool. They're cool. And they're comfortable. Like I'm surprised how comfortable for that Land Rover upright seating position. It's still, the steering wheel's in the right spot. Like, your pedaling position, pretty good. Like, I think a shorter guy, it's always going to be better for, let's be honest. Things like that, it's great. You know what I mean?
And I haven't driven one, but they look like they've had a lot of thought put into them. And, like, the dude who's building them has got a bit of money, so
Yeah,
and he's
Cluey
obviously,
guy.
you can tell that he set out to build a four-wheel driver's four-wheel drive. That's how
Yeah.
I'd kind of describe it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not like a car that could have four-wheel drive capability but needs modification. Like, there's a lot of thought that's in that car,
Yeah,
right?
definitely is, yeah. And lots to do to them to make it your own, which I think is a
Yeah.
big thing. It's not big suspension and not massive tyres, but you're not buying that car for that job. You're buying that car for the touring factor. You'll be able to do everything and more with what you get.
And just like basic things, when I looked at it, like there's the full switch panel, but then there's like blank switches there ready to be wired into aftermarket accessories, and just just little things like that. So you're not cutting holes in the car, or you're not. It's just really well thought out. And I mean, that sounds like a really overly simplistic view. Oh, you don't have to cut switches into the car, but they've thought about it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's our killer on new cars. And look, here's why I love a 79. It comes with nothing.
Yeah. Well,
that's the key.
The 79
it comes with
is like
nothing.
the perfect blank canvas.
Exactly.
Right?
That's why I love it, because there's no bells, there's no whistles. It means when you leave the door open, the door's open. It doesn't tell you about it. It don't give a crap. The door's open. I don't want beeps and buttons and cap and carry on. So that's one of the cool things about these cars. That one is like, okay, it covers all the bases of some of the. It's got the buttons, it's got the switches, but it's also got every bell and whistle you can imagine in it at the same time, which is cool, but I don't like beeps.
Yeah, I borrowed a BT50 from ARB for a shoot that we did at the start of the year, and I drove it from here down to Yarranjabilly and back, and it drove me insane. I
can't do it.
It's like trying to change lanes on me. It's beeping at me. It's telling me I'm going to crash. It's like screaming and slamming on the brakes, and then like every time you open the door, it turns the headlights on, and I got into camp at like 1 a.m. A cameraman's already asleep, and I'm like trying to quietly set up camp, and every time I open the door, it's beeping and the lights are on, and I'm like, man,
I can't stand it.
This is why I like cars from the 90s, you know?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. And the new cars, the aftermarket game is doing awesome at the moment, in the sense that a new car to put a switch in, like, there is nowhere on a Ford Ranger to put a switch. That's done, mate. That doesn't exist anymore. You can't put a button in that car. But the aftermarket game is getting so good at working out how to solve that problem.
Integrating them, right?
Integrating them in. And not only just going, like the old days where it was like, here's a 90-degree panel, screw it in somewhere and there's your switch. No, mate, like we got beautiful switch panels, multiple options at different locations. Like, they're doing a really, really cool job of things. And, the new switch systems that are coming out that are much more integrated. And
those little like programmable touch panels and stuff, soft pads and stuff.
That's it.
And I mean, even for the work we do at GME, right, we hear it all the time, like, we just need smaller radios because there's nowhere to put them in a car because they're so full of electronics and gadgets and gizmos. And
100%.
It's not like just screwing a radio into the side of the center console anymore, No. People don't want that when they're spending big money on those cars.
And you know what? Like, you get into some cars now, not a 79, but we get into, some of the Rams we build and the late model Ford Rangers and the D-Maxes. And I think I see the challenge being, how much can I get into this car? And all you can see is the pass-through for the UHF, for the GME.
And the microphone on the dash if you need that.
But we don't even put it in. Like that's it. They get in their car and they've just spent all this money and there's almost nothing to see, in a sense. But the challenge is doing that in a way where they know what they've got. They know they've got all this stuff.
But it still looks like a factory car.
It looks like it looks neat, it looks right, it looks factory. It's how it's meant to be. There's not crap hanging everywhere. There's not stuff poking out at you. This is right. And it's hard in the Rams, it's hard in all of the new cars, but I think that's part of the challenge, getting that right, making it look good and getting all those things good.
The 300's another level again with that, right?
Yeah,
like
they're another one.
Look,
they're still better. Toyota is still better than Ford, I'll say that. Toyota is still better than Ford. start a battle.
Yeah.
But in the sense that they got like a few more, the interior is a bit more easy to work with in the sense of switch positions and stuff, but still it's getting worse. Like, it's getting harder and harder.
Massive screens and like just electronic everything. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's some simple guys out there that just want to go light.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Menu, this part of this menu, the screen scroll, okay, I can turn my light on now.
And I guess that's a really interesting thing that, I mean, I've only been in the four-wheel drive industry for about 10 years or into four-wheel drives, and even in that time, I've noticed, like, as the appeal broadens and the market broadens, there's more people in it, which means you've got different kinds of people. It's not just hardcore wheelers anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've got people who, I don't know, lawyers, accountants, dentists, and it might be their family car that they want to go and do some off-road stuff in, but, like, they don't want their car to drive like shit. They don't want their car to look like it's been hacked up and modified, like they still want a nice car that their wife can drive or that they can drive to work on a Monday.
Yeah.
And still have some of the, I guess, benefits of having those accessories. And you're right, man, like the aftermarket game, I reckon, has come so far, even in the last just 5 years, right? Like the quality of aftermarket components, the thought that's going into it it's awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see. And some of the companies out there that are spending the time on the little stuff, the detail is really cool to see. And like you say there, the challenge used to be bringing mum's car in, because every four-wheel drive that had come in the shop back in the day was mum's car. She drives the kids to school in. How far can I go with it? You know what I mean? That's what they'd ask. How far can we go with this before she tells me?
Before I get in trouble.
You know, and mum jumps back in the car and there's UHFs hanging out and stuff on the roof and consoles and stuff everywhere. You just know that they're not loving life. So that used to be the challenge. Well, now that's not the challenge anymore. The challenge is there's so many different people wanting their different version of what they think is the way to do it, and trying to get that right for everyone. It's impossible, but you do it. You know what I mean? You find a way. You kind of hone in on what works for this guy. You learn that he is very finicky about his interior. Cool. So we're going to put the focus into that. This guy's super finicky about the finish on his bar, and this guy, and they've got their little things. So you just make sure you find out what they are, you work on what they are, and you hone in on them, and you get them dialed for those guys, and they love it. You know, I got a very specific guy that is all about the finish quality, right? And the bars, when they come painted, some of them are good, some of them are not, and you just got to pick between your brands. And I just said to him, nothing I get for you painted is going to be good enough. You have to let me get it done. Yep. And the bill is what the bill is, but you will leave here going, holy man, that's stunning. To the point where he goes, yep, you do your thing. Bar came in, the boys didn't want to touch it. Yeah, they were like, this is like, we have never seen a bar this well painted. To the point where we got into, once we stripped it, even where all the laser cutting had been done on the bar, and it was a reasonably clean job, we got in there and file finished every little edge, every little corner. We took off even more of the welds, cleaned them up, did all this work, and the bar came in, and Benji from Just Dip It around the corner here that does all that paint work, I said to him, this one's like...
Yeah, you got to get this one right.
This one is as good as you can do a bar, Benji. You do it, you clear it, I want it perfect. And he nailed it, eh? He's done some work for us at GME over the years, actually. He's a good dude. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about Jason Dimmick again. I just had a conversation with Jace yesterday. He was just doing some work on my 80. And, he was talking about the interior in my car, because I've got like a full Recaro interior and retrimmed factory seat and Recaro material and all that sort of jazz. And Jace was saying, we used to do this back in the day. And he said, but it's amazing that you've gone to the level that you've gone to with this car. Like, it's an 80 Series Land Cruiser, and obviously there's a lot of money in it, a lot of time, and a lot of work. But he said, there's more and more of that happening, and it's automotive expression, right? It's like, we started talking about auto salon cars, like back in the 90s, the sex spec cars, and they were a different ball game with fish tanks in the boot. Yeah, not quite the same, but we're getting there.
It's the same kind of, I don't want that. I don't want a fish tank in my four-wheel drive. But what I'm sort of saying is, I've seen four-wheel drive, the industry and the aftermarket start to develop in such a way that you go to I went to the Homebush show recently, and you guys were there, you were exhibiting. But the level of cars getting built, and a lot of them are show cars, but even the show and shine outside, and there's just everyday dudes and girls that are bringing their cars there, the level that people are going to with four-wheel drives, the attention to detail, the fit and finish, people are really caring about stuff, and I reckon it's mad. I'm all for it.
That's it. I think that so many people have worked out that you can build your normal car, and you can do a bunch of stuff on that, and you can like it and love it, but the difference is with your four-wheel drive is it will take you somewhere, and it will give you an experience, or it will give you a time that you remember, or it'll do something more than just the project that you built. Yep. And I think for a lot of people, for me especially, it's just as much the car, just as much my 4B for going full driving or going touring or going camping with the kid, whatever. It's just as much that as it is the project. Oh, yeah. The project of building your car is the key, and I think that's where we kind of do everything we can to help that project and build that project, because that's kind of, I'm the same. I'm the project guy. I like to, well, that's a cool idea. Oh yeah, how do we do that? Oh man, we've got a project at the moment that an NPS getting front radius control arm system with an airbag under the front axle, and we're going to work on the rear after that. Like
That was one that was in here the other day.
That was one that was in here the other day.
It was
and
pretty sick, that thing.
You know, and you've been talking to Matty Kinsella.
Yep.
I bounced stuff off him. Me and Matt bounced insane ideas off each other on a weekly basis. And, you know, I threw this one at him and I'm like, I want it to do X, Y, Z. What do you think? And we were here for 2.5 hours with a tape measure. And
it doesn't surprise me if there's one guy that really appreciates the technical aspect of designing four-wheel drive stuff. It's Matt, and he's done a bunch of work for me on a couple of different cars. And you just, you know, when I sat down and talked with him a couple of weeks ago, like the passion that dude has for four-wheel drives is like, well, one, it's infectious. Like you get real excited talking to Matt and you get all kinds of crazy ideas, but like it's just, he just lives and breathes four-wheel drives, right? Like he loves it. And what he's building now is sick. Like it's something different,
that's
right?
something different, something cool. And it's really, I've seen Matt like before he had a Hilux. So I knew Matt from back then and I was watching him, you know, weld stuff up in his backyard and, you know, go out and break it and stuff like that. So I've watched Matt for years. Makes me sound old, but I have watched Matt for years, and now I'm working with him directly, trying to get out of Matt what is in my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you combine what's in my head and then what's in somebody else's, like Matt's, you can come up with something pretty cool after that.
And again, someone that's got a lot of racing experience, countless hours of seat time, just social wheeling, and like, you know, it's what you were saying before, right? Like if you're going to recommend something or try and guide someone into what they should be doing, if you've got the experience actually doing it, I think I said the same thing to Matt, right? Like you can tell by there's like little tweaks to the work that he does, and you can tell that he's like learnt that because he's screwed it up or he's done it, and then he's like, hang on a minute, like even just when he did the brush bars on my 80, right? Like using like the roll cage joiners and stuff like that rather than the big old clamps that look like a piece of scaffolding, like simple things that just make the whole job so much neater.
That's it, yeah.
And I think, you know, the automotive expression, call it that, in four-wheel drives is amazing, but then it's also cool that now people see the value in someone like yourself, right? Like they're not just buying off-the-shelf suspension, slapping it in the car and going, sick, it's got a 6-inch lift, and now it drives like a pig.
Yeah.
People are wanting cars that not only look cool, but they want it to work.
Yeah,
right?
That's what we get the most of, and I think it's probably the name Solve Offroad, we're solving the problem, but I think I had a customer in today, perfect example, got a new 79, I've seen your car, I've seen it wheeling, your car wheels, your car works, why does your car work? Mine doesn't do what yours does, can you build my next car?
And the first word out of your mouth was portals.
Yeah, well, there was a long conversation about certain things. I said to him, let's ignore all that. And I go back to the basics. And this is what I've learned. This is what my sales guys hopefully do every day with every customer. What is the car for? What are you building it for? What's its job to do? Because I'm going to worry about that, number one, and everything else, number 2, 3, 4, 5. Because I'm going to get it to do the main job first properly. And when we work that out, we're going to have to compromise somewhere for something. Yep. Like I said to you, like a desert truck to a rock crawler, they don't do the same thing. So that's how we build the cars, and I think that's where the value is coming in. The Hilux guy, same story, comes in and he's either built the car or it's a guy that's already had a car built, and he goes, what am I doing wrong? I've built this car and I get nothing but dramas. Well, what do you want it to do? I want it to be 4 inches, and I want it to go, and I spend all my time on the highway.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to go.
And I need to tow, yeah.
I want to need to tow. It's like, well, hang on. What does the car do? What's its everyday job? Oh, I actually want to go touring. Oh, well, I need to put a 2 to 2.5 inch in the front of this.
Yeah.
Get that to sit right. Balance the car out. Get the weight right in the rear so that the front springs can actually do their job properly, not be overcome. Now we can set your car up. Now you can go do what you want to do with it, and it will do all the other stuff you want to do still.
But it's a compromise.
But the compromise has got to be here, so that this one can be done properly.
And I think
that's what the job is. You hone in on what they really need to do with that car, and you set it up with the minimal compromises for that. And
yeah, and I mean that word compromise keeps coming up, right? And like my 80 is a prime example. I keep changing things. I do stuff, and then I go, that's shit. Why did I do that? I've ruined the way my car handles. And even recently, like you had my 80 in here, I've had 5 sets of springs in that car now, just to try and get the ones that are going to suit the way the car drives. And what I do in that car has changed. Yeah. Like I've had that car for a long time now, 7 years or something. And, you know, I got it. It was a Turo 2-inch lift 35s, and it was actually really nice to drive.
Probably good.
And then I put a massive lift in it, and I was driving lots of hard tracks. And then when I built the GQ, I very quickly realised that was the car to take on the hard stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's light, it's low, it's super capable.
It's got that beefiness, and I can throw it into stuff.
Oh yeah, you can just beat on that car, right?
Yeah.
And so as a result, I went, well, I don't really want to do that in my 80 anymore. And so I've lowered the car. I've changed radius arms. I've changed so much stuff, like taken weight off the roof. And it's what you were saying, I get just as much enjoyment out of the project. And I get asked all the time, like, oh, is your car done? I'm like, what is this concept of done? Like, and my wife's just given up now. She's just like, what's next? It's like, the car's never going to be finished, right?
Happen.
So, of course it's not going to be finished, because as soon as I get it to a stage where I'm happy, someone will go and release some cool new thing and I'll have to try it because I can't help myself. Right?
You need that part. Like, and I get that. I don't know how many times a week in the showroom, it's like, once I've got that sorted, I think I'm done.
You're never done.
And I just go, no stress, man. I'll see you next week. Because it's something else.
In fact, I think I just heard you having that conversation with a customer when I arrived here today.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Like, you'll be back.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting one. That was Jess saying, yes, we're done. And that was Jeremy saying, no, we're not.
yeah. So pretty standard.
So, they're pretty standard. Yeah, that's it. But that's, I think, the project, the build, the compromises, where they got to be. That's how to get it right. And the more someone listens, the better that I see. The more they listen, and the better we get at the whys, the better the projects get, the better the job gets, the better the final product becomes. It just gets better and better and better. And that comes down to trade canopy setups and why we do what we do, and why we say go to the companies we say go to. Like, we sell Rock Solid. Like, you can see them. There's multiples of them here. I love Rock Solid. But there'll be customers here. I'm like, no, man, go to Norweld. Like, you're a Norweld guy. You're kind of down that stream. Let's go that way. I'm not going to sell you what doesn't work and send you out the door and hope for the best. So I don't think that helps anyone, and I don't think that sort of that doesn't work long term.
No, well, it doesn't mean the customer's not going to be happy, and ultimately, you're here to solve customers' problems and make them happy.
Exactly.
And I think there's so much to be said for that too. And you mentioned it before, right? If a customer asks for something and you don't want to do it, you'll just tell them, like, hey, that's not for me. But it's the why is really important, not just the what. Because someone can come in and you can just go, here's a shopping list of things that we're going to put on your car. But if you can explain why you're recommending that, and that's something that, I know when I first met you, you straight away said, well, you need to do this, and this is the reason why. And I'm like, okay. And you were able to translate it from, obviously you're a highly technical guy, to a dumbass like me. And I was like, I get it, and then I did a whole bunch of other things and made it way worse before we made it better. And now, my 80's driving better than it's ever driven. And
brakes work.
Yeah, it stops amazingly. Like, it's a heavy car, it still stops, it turns. It's not walking all over the highway at legal highway speeds, 110 kilometres an hour.
Does its job.
So it's just, and now I reckon it's the perfect tourer for me. And I'm about to put a baby seat in that thing.
It's about to have a baby seat in it.
Well, it's got
That's a different world, mate. When you're driving your 80, right? I was in the 79, and you turn around and there's a baby seat in the back. You're like,
yeah, that's weird.
That's different.
And like child restraint anchor bar in the back, because I've got drawers, and so even that, like, to put a baby seat in the car, like, we'll just put a baby seat in. I had to modify the car because it's already modified.
Or 79,
mate,
don't have it. They don't have it. You got to have that. You got to make that happen.
I've got to tell you this story. This is funny. I called a bloke up on the coast where I live and said he's like a child restraint specialist, and I called him and I said, hey man, I need a child restraint put in my 80 series, but I need to bring it in. He goes, no, it's fine. They've got him in the floor. And I said, I just need to bring the car in and get you to have a look at it. And he goes, oh, okay, if you want. And then I rocked up the next day and he walked out, and he's an older bloke, and he looks at it and he goes, yeah, I see why you needed to bring it in. Is there anything factory left on this car? And I said, no, not really. So we put the big bar in, but I'm going to put my daughter in that car next year and drive to Cape York.
You want it to be right.
And you want it to be right. You want it to be safe. You don't want it to be walking all over the highway. You want it to stop when you need to.
Exactly.
And I think maybe it's a maturity thing, maybe it's an experience thing. We've all got to make mistakes.
Maturity, let's be honest.
Yeah, maybe.
The amount of the guys that come in here that want their 4-inch in their Hilux, they're definitely the younger guys, and it's hard to steer them the right way because they're pretty well committed on what they want. And I don't want to discourage them from it, because there's two sides of that. Like, okay, it's not right. What you want, it's not going to work. You're going to hate it, but you kind of got to learn that lesson, I guess.
And
so
we've
go
all done
get
it.
it. We've all done it. That's the reason I know. It's the reason I know. It's not. It wasn't lucky guess. It was, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Stop hanging off my car.
And that's the value, right?
That's it. So it's like all I do with those guys is I tell them the why. I let them work it out, and I see them in 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When they've done the 4-inch kit and it's not right, and they come back in and go, man, the car doesn't even drive. What can we do?
Yeah.
So,
or I'm breaking CVs, or keep ripping boots apart.
That's
stuff.
it. Yeah. Can't even wheel align my car. There's a reason. Let's look at it. This is what we've got to do. So,
yeah, nice, man. So if people want to find you, what's the best way to get in contact with Solve?
So website, Solve Offroad, Instagram,
So
Facebook,
solveoffroad.com.au.
and then Instagram. I don't know how to do that
Solve
one.
Offroad, mate.
Solve Offroad.
I think it's at Solve Offroad. It's pretty easy.
At Solve
anyway,
Offroad.
I'll drop a bunch of links for those of you that are watching the video. But mate, it has been awesome to sit down and hear a little bit about your experience. And I think just judging by what's going on in this warehouse, or this factory, there's still a fair bit of cool stuff. I see a little buggy hiding away in the back there. So there's still that little element of race car in this,
That's it. That doesn't go away. I think it's the side-by-sides at the moment there.
Yeah.
Sort of the flavour of the
So
month.
do you reckon you're going to do more racing? Is that still something that you're going to do? Maybe not hammers, but, you know.
I don't know. I don't think I'll do the racing. I'm thinking we're going to build a rock crawler, a pretty off-the-hook sort of rock crawler. I haven't done that for a long time. So get back into that realm a little bit and sort of take a bit of my knowledge that I've learned over the last however long and put that back into a rock crawl. See what we can do with that. And I miss the seat time behind a rock crawl. Like some of the technical stuff you could do is pretty epic. So to take the new technologies and build a new one, that's going to be fun. And I think I've got a kid too. I'm not much in front of you, 12 months in front of you sort of thing. And I would love for that to sort of be the kind of, he grows up, we go to rock crawling comps, we go to tough tracks, we kind of do those events. They're a bit easier on the schedule than racing.
Yep.
Racing is work on car, buy more parts, work on car, race.
Yep.
Work on car.
Yeah.
Rock crawling is not. Rock
It's a bit
crawling
more
is
social,
it's
right?
heaps more social, it's heaps more relaxed, more enjoyable. You can take it as serious as you want to take it, and I don't take anything too seriously, that. So, that's kind of what we'll be doing.
Love it, man. And I had the same conversation with Matt, and I just love that we are building the next generation of four-wheel drive head, right? Like, I've got a daughter, Matt's got a daughter and a son, you got a son. I know it doesn't matter whether they're a girl or a boy, like they're going to grow up around four-wheel drive.
They're going to be out in the bush, they're going to be camping, they're going to be doing what they should be doing.
And they're going to love it,
That's
right?
it, exactly right.
And I think that's what it's all about. So, mate, thanks again for joining me.
Not a worry.
It's been great fun. And we'll see all you guys next time on the outer side.